Hi, everybody. This is Robbi from Guidance from Gratitude and my dear friend Nicole Schoen. I'm really excited that we are able to get together again and record another episode of the podcast and to introduce people or deepen people's knowledge about Archangel Michael. Um,
Absolutely. Me too.
Before we started recording, we were talking about Archangel Michael and how we connect with him. And sometimes, I was saying sometimes I take it for granted. You actually shared that word. I couldn't get that word. And you shared taking him for granted because he's always there
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way.
It's just that
And
staple.
so yeah, and Michael name means he who is like God, he of God. And so he's been assigned to kind of oversee the other archangels in a way too. Like that's his role. He's kind of there all the time. He's omnipresent. All archangels can be omnipresent. They can help everybody at the same time, which is a beautiful thing. But Michael seems to just have a different ability to kind of be in the stream of everything at all time.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. I think he's one of the most well-known archangels. And I don't know if that's
Yes.
why, because the more people that know about him and that are calling on him, maybe there's a greater strength in that. I know when I first learned about Archangel Michael, my first things were seeing in like the church, the views of
Hmm.
Archangel Michael slaying, Satan. And like that freaked me out. I don't like that
Yeah,
image.
I don't like that
I
image at
don't
all.
resonate with that.
I
And then I
know.
knew that he was the archangel that watched over the police, which is a beautiful thing,
Yes.
but also not, for me. So I kind of just put Michael away and just didn't think that was something that resonated for me. But later on, being reintroduced to him, I don't really see it as slaying Satan. I see it as slaying the
Yeah.
ego, but he's just that
Yes.
warrior
Yes.
angel with that beautiful sword of light that couldn't cut the cords to fear and to attachments and all other things, and just makes you feel so safe. I think I resisted because I was like, oh, I don't want to be so basic. He's the most popular one. Like there's so many other cool angels. But I very quickly realized that I was in a meditation, a big circle, like at a retreat, and then when my Archangel Mike, I was nervous, I was uncomfortable. Plus, when you're intuitive and empathic, you're feeling everyone else's stuff. So I'm usually, there are times where I kind of start drifting and going and feeling into the room. And all of a sudden I felt his energy behind me. And I realized that I felt safe. I realized that I was breathing differently. And that's what allowed me to then have an experience. Because otherwise I was stopping myself from
Yeah.
going deep, from experiencing, because I was just not comfortable. So for me, Michael has been, that was one of the biggest things that he changed for me, just feeling safe. I can do so much
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You talked about removing the ego, and Michael comes through to help us step deeper into this work, and especially light workers to be able to do this energetic work or spiritual work, sharing those messages. But he allows us to get over ourselves to be able to
Yeah.
step into that role. One thing that I really embraced when I took Radley's mastermind was that Michael is here to help us all as we step into this work, to give us the strength and confidence to remove
Yeah.
the ego. And that's a big part of it, is that surrendering,
Yeah. Yeah.
stepping into the work. But he also can help us to trust the messages that we receive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like Michael is your spiritual bodyguard. For me,
Yeah.
he's the
Yep.
doorkeeper. I trust that whatever angel's coming in, with other whatever spirit guide is coming in, it's okay because Michael has the door. It's just
Mm.
whatever makes you. I mean, he is that superhero warrior type energy. Safety, protection. He helps with life purpose, right?
Yep.
Releasing
Yep. Yep.
connections to fear, clearing spaces. They say he can fix
Yes.
things. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that he can be
Yeah.
called on. But you're right. I feel like he is the base. He's always there. He's always holding space. And when we call on him, he just comes in closer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. I found it really cool. I'll post a picture of it. But when we were doing the Archangel Michael session with Radley that day,
Hmm.
um, and the mastermind. I'm up on the third floor of our house in this little room. Ella, my daughter, she was 6 at the time, I guess. She was downstairs. She didn't know that we were up here talking about Archangel Michael, or she knew I was doing an angel workshop. But and I came down and she had drawn this drawing, and she said, "Papa, is this what Archangel Michael looks like?" and he had, she had drawn his blue eyes, and his robe was blue, like, and in his hand he was holding this sword. And I said, "What's that,
Wow.
baby?" And she said, "Oh, it's his sword." And
Duh.
I was like, "Okay." Never
Oh.
talked to her about Archangel Michael before. Like, she's
Mhm.
6. Yet, so I was like, "Can I borrow this?" And came up and showed the group, and they were like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh." I mean, so he's
Yeah.
so accessible to anybody and
Yeah,
comes through so
absolutely.
clearly that my 6-year-old daughter can draw a picture of him without ever having heard
Yeah.
or,
Wow.
like,
That's so
seen
amazing.
images of him.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I love that she was just like, while we're up here talking about it, she picked up on it and drew him so clearly. Yeah, every night we thank her guardian angel and thank Archangel Michael for being with her and protecting us through the night.
Yeah.
And
Wow. So he is part of
so
your everyday still, even
he
though,
is, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's a really
Yeah.
beautiful thing. You mentioned that life purpose, that Michael helps us to find clarity around our life purpose. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I think a lot of the archangels can help us with that, but they say it's one of Michael's specialties. And I really feel it's because he helps us to be fearless enough to step into our purpose. As we're figuring that out and the world is opening up in ways that are leading you in a certain direction, that is lighting you up and feeling good, there's always fear that rises, and ego that rises, imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. And Michael is just so perfect to cut the cords to that and just lead the way.
And going back to the what you had said earlier about removing the ego from it, this isn't about us. It's about how can we step into our higher purpose and fulfill that kind of
Yeah.
need to help others in the highest way possible.
Yeah.
And he helps us do that. You also mentioned that he was associated with logic, I think, and that he brings in the ability to look at things from a different viewpoint. In the tarot,
Mhm.
is associated with the Emperor card, so he's the one that people look up to. But
Mm.
because he can see across all the field of everything and help us to be logical and bring a systematic way of approaching something instead of it being purely emotional.
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah.
call him in for that balance and grounding.
I feel like he helps with
Yeah,
the focus of that. Like, let's get things done.
absolutely. Yeah, take charge. Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
part.
Take charge. I
Um,
love that emperor energy. Yeah.
and he's known for cutting cords. That's what everybody said. Cut cords, cut cords.
Hmm.
And you've mentioned his sword of light. One day, my friend Joanna, we were doing an energy workshop, and she mentioned in the class, which I thought was really interesting, that swords, can take on a really violent, like you talked about the image of Michael standing,
Yeah.
being the
Yeah.
warrior and standing on the serpent, the devil's head or whatever, like about to sever his head, and it's like really aggressive and violent. But
Yeah.
and for people who might have suffered abuse or any kind of violence in their life, that could be a really traumatic thought.
Yeah.
And Joanna had such a beautiful image. Instead of using a sword, you can use anything that you want to.
Mm.
And so, like, I imagined using a flower, like a
Mm.
daisy or a sunflower, whatever it is that you resonate with. It
Yeah.
could just be light. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be the sword. So I wanted to
I
put
love
that
that.
out there to people,
Yeah, I do
you
love
know.
that. I do actually imagine it being more of light. And I also, it's important to mention that that cords of love can't be cut. So we never have to worry.
Yes.
I think the hardest thing for me was cutting cords between me and my children. Like I was just like, no, I can't do that. Between a
Yeah.
stranger after an argument, when you're in a big crowded room, yes, but as a parent, right, we get so connected to our kids, and if I'm having a hard time, I'm realizing they're feeling it, and if they're having a hard
Yeah.
time, I'm feeling it too. So now I'll just kind of wave my hand and do like a little snip sometimes in front of them. They're like, did you just cut my cord? but
Yeah.
but you're not
Like,
cutting a
yep.
cord of love. You're cutting the energetic cord to
No,
feeling the anxiety, right? And sharing it back. But yeah,
absolutely.
I
And
do like to
it's,
see light that way.
yeah, and it's essential for us to do that. And we should all, especially people who are stepping into doing healing work or energy work or readings for people, you have to cut the cords after every session. And I would encourage you to, begin and end your day by cutting those
Yeah,
cords and the connections, because you can't fully be you if you have all of this other energy and things coming to you all the time. You have to
yeah,
be able to separate what's yours and what's someone else's, or you're just going to be drained. And you
yeah,
see that happen a lot with people who are doing energy work, especially. And I know a lot of people that do Reiki that have fallen into that, where so drained because the energy's coming through them. They forget to cut the cords because
mm,
they love helping other people.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you
And it
know,
could be for
it's kind of
anyone
like,
though, even like teachers, right? You're in the classroom with
oh
all these
yeah,
kids and there's all these emotions and all these things. We don't even realize that we're picking them up. Like in energy work, it's a must. It has to be part of your self-care. But I think we
yeah,
forget just in regular life and regular jobs too that we are picking up and sometimes you just wear it like it's yours. You don't even know it's there until it's gone. So making this a practice, you don't have to know everything about Michael. You don't have to totally believe in angels, but if you're open and you just ask for help, they're there, whether you know it or not, whether you can feel it or not, you will feel it eventually.
absolutely. And there's meditations out there. It's really about setting the intention to really get back into your body and knowing what's your energy and what's not, and
Yeah.
disconnecting, like severing and cutting the cords could be a little, some people might think of those words as harsh, but it's disconnecting from someone else's energy so you have more capacity to see and fully be in your body. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's like putting your own your oxygen mask on first, and
It is.
in the
Yeah.
airplane you hear that so many times, and it applies. It's just so important for us to take care of ourselves, and the only way to do that is if we're not taking on everybody else's stuff all the time,
Yeah.
and knowing, having those healthy boundaries. And Michael can help you do that. It's a loving act to cut cords,
Yeah.
because you're also not enabling somebody else. It's requiring them to take back the energy and deal with their own stuff. They
Yeah.
can't, you can't solve everybody else's problems. It's not, you're taking away the lesson that they're supposed to be learning, their life path
And you can send
process.
Archangel Michael to them just like you do for Ella, right? Like it's okay to, if you're
Absolutely.
worried about your children or a friend or a loved one, Michael, please follow them throughout their day, take care of them. And then it's not your energy that's being drained. You sent help their way and they're protected.
We've talked a lot about how different archangels work together, and we're actually going to do a series. I'm excited about this. In
Yeah.
January we're going to start doing a series and talking about different areas of how to work with archangels. So we'll be posting that soon. And so
Yeah.
that combination of Michael and Zadkiel just was like,
Oh my
wow,
goodness. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
powerhouse. um,
Yeah. Really are release and just transform, right?
Yeah,
Together.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, Zadkiel is associated with the violet flame and transmutation of energy. So we are releasing it, and it's just, we are able to move forward, but also see ourselves as one with God. That
Mhm.
we're made in as God, just as Michael, and
Mhm.
there's no separation. And Zadkiel helps us just to release that energy and purify ourselves in the process of thinking that we're lesser than, that we're not deserving, whatever it is. And Michael just kind of brings that strength, and I kind of see it as a 1-2 punch,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also sometimes I think it's hard for people to let go. So
Mhm.
Michael and Zadkiel are gonna help, but there's some things that we think we're ready to release. But then when it comes time, this part of us that's like really holding back. And I think one of the beautiful things about the violet flame is it's just transmuting. It's taking that energy and turning it into something else. It's not throwing it away. It's not,
Mm,
doesn't have to be as hard as like it's gone forever. It's really turning it into
yeah,
something beautiful and good again for you kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think they
yeah,
work so beautifully together in that way too. I just think this whole season is a season of letting go. I mean, nature's doing it all around us with complete trust. They're not holding on, they're
yeah,
just letting go. And I think this is the time of year where it's so important to do that before we go into our rest and then
yeah.
emerge, running.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, that's exactly why I was like, "It's time." I know, and I was laughing because like one time I typed in, I think new moon for full moon in a post one time, and people were like, "Nope, nope, nope, it's the full moon, not the new moon." And so then when this came through, I was like, "People are gonna think I don't know what the full moon and the new moon do," and I was like, "They're like, who cares? This is time. We got to do this
Yeah,
now." All
absolutely. I
right.
mean, the full moon is it's an amazing energy to use to release, but the truth is we can release at any time. We don't need to wait for
Yeah.
for the full moon, but using the new moon energy as like, there's your 1-2 punch, right? Like you're going
Yeah.
to release and then it's like, what do we want to bring in? And that's powerful.
Exactly.
That's really
Yeah. So
powerful.
we've talked about how Michael can help us with life purpose and to move past things. I love the idea of Shamuel and Michael together. Shamuel's the
Mm,
eyes of God and how we see things differently, and so we can see it and then release whatever it is that's holding us back, so we can move forward.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. And
and
the
we could go
fear,
through. Yeah.
the fear that could be involved with that, right? Like Shamuel, he helps us see what we're not seeing, but he also helps us see with our heart and open our heart.
Yes.
And sometimes a lot of us build so many walls, and shield our heart to protect it. And as that opens, it starts to feel, just a little, I don't know, what's the word? Just vulnerable, I guess, right? And then you
Mhm.
have Michael there to make you feel safe, to know that it's safe to do that, and it's safe to know the truth, it's safe to see, it's safe to feel. So I love those two together, so powerful.
And then we have Ariel for the strength too.
Yes.
You know,
My
Ariel and
girl.
Michael, that combo.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Courage.
Well, I mean, we could go through every archangel and talk about how they're associate, how
I
they
know,
how
but
they
they all work so well together. That's the point, right?
exactly
There's just
exactly.
powerful duos and powerful trios.
So we've talked about cutting cords and our energetic cords and connections to people, places, things, the past and stuff. But you've mentioned how Michael can help other connections and other
Yeah.
clear other
Yeah, just
things. So
yeah, I think there's just so many layers to those connections. The chords are one thing, but there's also our connection to help us release our connection to the past, to unforgiveness, um,
mhm.
to regret, to guilt, like things like that we hold on to that are not serving us. He can help release us from that. Also people and anything that's holding us back, and also earthbound spirits. If you're in a place that feels uncomfortable, like there's some earthbound spirits, he's the perfect one to call in and clear that space. So there's just so many layers to the release. I think that's why he's so popular and works so well with all
Yeah,
the others. He's just,
yeah,
I think one of the things, I know Kyle Gray talks about calling in the greatest source of love that you know, calling whatever that is. And for him, I think it's Jesus Christ. So Jesus is his
yeah.
guy and he comes in and he feels so strong. Some people call in like their grandmother or grandfather, or somebody who passed away, but it's whatever just really makes you, feel so loved. I think that's a really important thing to think about. And for me, it's Michael. I've gone all over the place and I have a connection with different angels and people that I love, but I realized that when I'm looking to call in for safety, that greatest love that I know, it would be Michael for me. He just makes me feel safe. So it doesn't have to be Michael for everyone, but it's kind of a neat thing to discover, like what makes you feel safe and strong. And you can have a team. It doesn't have to be one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember when I was preparing, I looked back at some of Kyle's materials, and he did talk about Jesus and Michael, and I love that you brought that up because I had forgotten to mention that. But
Mm.
and again, I want to go back to cutting cords as a way to be more fully into yourself. And if you're free of that energy and those connections, it's only going to be able to allow you to open your heart
Mm.
more and ultimately be able to be more fully who you are and who you're meant to be. So then you can ultimately help people more, but
Yeah.
you'll do it in a different way. It's not going to be in a codependent way. It's not going to be in a needy way.
Yeah.
You're not going to have people just, those energy vampires around you, because you're going to know your boundaries. You're going to know what's your energy and what's not your energy, and you're
Yeah.
doing it from love. So
Yes.
as you said, call in that team every day to clear the energy to let you live through love and open your heart to the experiences that are right in front of you, so you know exactly what's yours to do next, what's not
Mm.
yours to do next,
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
those, and put those boundaries. A lot of times I'll tell clients that if they're really truly empathic, you've mentioned being an empath, several times, and how you were in groups and that you were taking on, you started drifting out and taking on other people's energies, and it was blending with yours, and you had to go, nope, no, no, no,
Hmm.
nope, I gotta. And you can ask Michael to put that bubble around you. First clear out the energies, and then you're going to open through love to your guides and angels, asking them to be with you. And then sometimes even starting with in the prayer position right in front of your heart with your hands in the prayer position, and then going up and around, just stretching out and expanding your boundaries, pulling up that grounded energy from the earth back to your heart, and doing that until you feel that you have that little bubble of
Yeah.
protection around you as you go back into the world.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with taking on people's energies, or empathic, or just feel weak or needing that extra support, I encourage you to do that as you move through your day, and you can stop and do it any time. If you
Yeah.
need to go to
Several
the
times a
bathroom and
day.
really,
And
yeah,
it's just an act of
absolutely.
self-love, right? It's an act of
It
self-love. And I think
is.
that sometimes people feel like they're secluding themselves or bubbling themselves off. And it's all intention. It's you intend that your light shines through this bubble and that love can come in, that you are protected and the love is still going in and out. It's just stopping the other energy from,
Yes,
slowing you down. That's all it is. It's not separating yourself,
exactly.
you know. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it just allows you again to operate from a different place. And
Yeah.
we haven't really talked about the lower level vibrations. You talked about earthbound spirits and stuff,
Mm.
but the low, like Michael just clears those lower level vibrations away so we can operate from a different place.
Yeah.
So it's just a cool thing when we call him in to do that clearing and just move through our
Yeah.
day.
Right. That's what I would encourage everyone to just try. Just waking up in the morning and inviting him in and asking for that protection. And like you said, before you go to bed, just do that for a week and see how things feel and how different. Sometimes it's such a slow progress that you'll skip a day and then maybe do another and then realize the difference,
Yeah.
but the more we call him in, the more we're building a relationship and the more we're showing ourselves that, that self-love and care too. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being my partner in
Yeah.
these messages about the archangels. I always love spending time with you, and I know that the
Same.
feedback we get is just people are really enjoying learning about the archangels, and I'm excited for us to start the class in January, where we're going to be talking about kind of groups of archangels, how different areas that they work with us, the archetypes that they work in, and people will expand their knowledge, and I'm really excited about getting that going.
Yeah, me too. So excited. It's going to be great. Thank
But
you.
everybody, thank you so much. Remember to call in Archangel Michael each morning and evening, releasing whatever it is that you do not need an energetic connection to. And if you have any questions, please feel free to write to us and we'll be glad to answer them. But we're sending you lots of love. And Nicole, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're interested in scheduling a private session with either Robbi or Nicole, you can find that information on our websites. Robbi's website is guidancefromgratitude.com and Nicole's website is iamnicoleschoen.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode about Archangel Michael. I really found that by working with the archangels and learning about them at the beginning of my spiritual journey, that it really helped to give me a focus and a way into this new found spirituality that I was exploring. I hope that you're able to take the information that Nicole and I shared about Archangel Michael and integrate that into your daily life. Have a wonderful day.